Mr. Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
Certainly. Ms. Bowes.
Here.
Ms. Evans.
Here.
Ms. Farmer.
Here.
Mrs. Grover.
Here.
Mr. Johnson. Dr. King. Mr. Pluta.
Here.
Ms. Santos.
Here.
Mr. Van Hise.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. The board, we will now move into executive session.
Motion to move into executive session?
Second?
That was Mr. Van Hise, seconded by Ms. Grover, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Ms. Bowes.
Yes.
Ms. Evans.
Yes.
Ms. Grover.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. Pluta.
Yes.
Ms. Santos.
Yes.
Mr. Van Hise.
Yes.
Ms. Farmer.
Yes.
You are in executive session.
a note for our executive session. I forgot to read what we were in executive session for, so I'd like to do that now. Now it be resolved by the Lawrence Township Board of Education that it is necessary to meet in executive session to discuss certain items involving, in this case, matters of personal confidentiality rights, included but not limited to staff and/or student discipline matters, and specifically student discipline and HIV. Be it further resolved, any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public as soon as feasible. The minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Further resolved that the board will return to open session to conduct business at the conclusion of the executive session. And with that, no formal action will be, there will not be any action taken in this executive session. Thank you. If we could call the roll once again, please, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, okay. Ms. Bose?
Here.
Ms. Evans?
Here.
Mrs. Grover?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Dr. King?
Here.
Mr. Pluto?
Here.
Ms. Santos?
Here.
Mr. Van Hise?
Here.
Ms. Farmer?
Here. And now I'd like to read announcement of notice of open public meeting statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. As required under law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided via email and/or fax to the Times, the Lawrence Ledger, the Public Library, and has been filed with the municipal clerk. This notice was provided prior to the 48 hours required by the Open Public Meetings Act. The board reserves the right to limit public discussion of personnel items and other matters as defined in the law. And with that, we will now move to the flag salute. If you will all please rise. Thank you. And now we will have a report from student representatives.
Excuse me, Madam President,
Oh, I'm sorry.
please, item D has to be read.
Item B, the roll call. Oh, G. I just read that. The open public. Yes, I did it before the flag
Oh,
salute.
sorry.
That's
Trying
okay.
to fix the roll call piece.
No worries. Keep me on my toes.
boy, Tom.
Yeah,
You
keep
think
me on my
mine, 'cause
toes.
apparently
That's
I wasn't
good.
reading it.
Maybe we should read it again.
I don't mind at all.
No, thank
If
you.
you'd like to
No,
hear it
thank you.
again,
Always nice.
very important, very,
That's what I
very
was trying to
important.
fix.
Okay,
You now have the floor.
and actually, let me just,
All good?
All right, good evening. My name is Graham Walter, a student leader here at Lawrence High School and the vice president of the junior class of 2023. First, congratulations to the new Board of Education president, Patricia Farmer. We are only a couple weeks from the end of the second marking period on February 2nd, which puts us halfway through the school year. By this time, most seniors applying to college will have submitted their applications. We are also at a point in the year where we need to start thinking about course selections for the next year. Despite having to shift to virtual instruction last week and half days this week, sports and clubs have continued, some in person and some virtual. As of now, the plan is to go back to full days for the next week. Winter sports are well underway, and though it's hard to imagine, registration for spring sports has begun. I can vouch for this as a lacrosse player here at Lawrence High School. We had an information meeting a few weeks ago. Lawrence High School DECA students competed in the state competition. We had a great showing. 41 students were finalists in the competition. The The school musical, Once Upon a Mattress, has been in rehearsals for over a month. Performances will be March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The Black History Month celebration is in the planning process. It is scheduled for Sunday, February 27th, and will likely be virtual again this year. Stay tuned for more information leading up to the event. And that is all for now. Thank you for having me, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now have recognition and acknowledgement.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Have a good night.
January is Board Recognition Month, and I feel extremely fortunate to have a dedicated, smart, and board that truly puts our students first. And because of that, we actually have students here tonight from Slackwood School to make a brief presentation to our board, so I'll ask Jean Musey and the Slackwood crew to come on up front.
Said we should have had them do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
I think you're all right without it, right?
You can hear you.
I can hear you. I love your shirts. Yeah. Whoops. Nope, not yet. Nope, he has to do it. Try Kevin's. You try Kevin's.
How was that, Tom?
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Good evening, Lawrence Township Board of Education. My name is Jean Musey, and I am the principal of Slackwood Elementary School, and it is a great honor to be here tonight with my colleagues, Mrs. Hobson, who is our school counselor, with Miss Liu, who is our art teacher, and by the way, these two educators are our Governor Educators of the Year Award winners. But I am especially honored to be here with Niara, Annabelle, Emily, and Nia, and they have a special presentation.
Good evening. We're here tonight to recognize and celebrate all the hard work of the Lawrence Township Board of Education. Governor Murphy declared January School Board Recognition Month. He stated the efforts of local school boards keep New Jersey the best in the nation. We appreciate how you give the schools what they need, how you support all the teachers, and how you make it possible for all the students to create a bright future for themselves.
At Slackwood School, our memo is Create You. We believe that every student should be encouraged to create themselves, to be the best they can be, to be creative problem solvers, critical thinkers, but also be kind, helpful, compassionate, good in heart people.
When we all work together to create ourselves, we create amazing schools and an incredible community. With your continued hard work and all the hard work of our students, teachers, principals, center office people, staff, and families, Lawrence Township Public Schools can go stronger for everyone. We know LTPS students can change the world.
We know that it is a very difficult time to be a school board member. We thank you for how you have persevered through the pandemic and all other challenges. We know you are volunteers who dedicate many hours to your board responsibilities. We also know that you are parents, teachers, social workers, professors, business people, lawyers, neighbors, friends, and advocates for children. We know your goal is to make sure every child has the opportunity to create themselves and a bright future, and we thank you. Please accept these great you gifts as a token of our appreciation.
So we have some gifts for you.
and the watercolors are gorgeous.
That's for me. Thank you very much.
Should we wait to open it or open it now? Open it now?
We're going to open it now.
I love the card.
Thank you.
This is me at Christmas. I don't like opening. I want to savor every moment. Oh, heart.
I made the shirt. Nice.
Really? Oh, my gosh.
Excellent. Excellent.
I think as a board, we should put the shirts on and do a picture with the kids. Can we do that quickly? Sorry, that's me, the teacher.
We could do a picture. We could do a picture with the kids. Those that want to put on a shirt can. I'll hold up the picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my gosh. I will put that. But I think I'm going to take it from Enjoy for a little bit first. Is that okay? Oh, my, the colors. leave our shirts on? Yes, let's do.
Bye, have a good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
That was outstanding.
recognitions and acknowledgement, is that right, Dr. Kaysen?
That is correct.
Okay. We would now like to move for the adoption of minutes. If we could have a motion, please.
So moved?
Second?
Who was the second from, please?
Michelle Bose.
Thank you.
Michelle Bose, okay.
Keep up, Tom.
I heard Pepper make it, and then I heard someone else down there make it. So here we go.
We could call roll.
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Grover,
Yes.
Dr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Pluta,
Yes.
Ms. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Van Hise,
Yes.
Ms. Farmer,
Yes,
motion carried.
thank you. Okay. And now if we could have the superintendent's report.
Good evening. Since we just met last week and we have a few presentations still to go, I will keep my remarks very brief tonight and my report brief. I want to really thank everyone, our students, our parents, our staff, our administrators, our nurses. It was really a monumental effort to get back into person for in-person learning this week. It's going extremely well, not ideal. We want our kids here full day, and that is our plan for next week. So next week, beginning Tuesday, because we're off on Monday for Martin Luther King Day, our plan is to bring back all of our students for a full day, including lunch. We're watching our numbers. They're increasing daily, but we're hoping with the way they are and our projections that we'll be able to pull that off. We do have a plan B just in case. We know how important it is for our earliest and youngest kids to be in school, so we're focusing on them. So either way, we'll have our students pre-K through 3 in for a full day. If we have to adjust and shift, we will be looking at our students in grades 4 through 12, possibly having an early dismissal without lunch, and then them having remote instruction in the afternoon. But again, that's our second plan, and we could even look at that at specific levels depending on staffing and busing and things like that. So again, we really are hopeful that we have everybody back in for full day in-person learning, and we'll continue that for as long as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaysen. Now, if we could have the board secretary's report.
I'd like to thank all the staff as well. I know it's been hard over the past week, and thank the parents for their patience as well. This is certainly a difficult time, and everyone is doing their very best to make things happen, from transportation to our food service department to our facilities people, and most certainly our instructional staff. On the agenda tonight, you'll find some things that the board has approved in terms of the undertaking of these projects, and now it's time to approve the contracts. One of the largest contracts is the roof replacement for Slackwood School. That's on the agenda this evening. Just as a reminder, Slackwood Elementary School is due for a roof replacement. The roof that we are going to put on that will look something similar to the administration building, the roof that's on there now, only much larger, of course. Also on the agenda, being funded through federal funds through the ESSER monies, is a BCBA contract that goes along hand in glove with our mental health initiative and our social emotional learning. And so we'll be providing extra supports into the classroom for our teachers, and you'll find that on the agenda this evening as well. And that's all I have for you tonight.
And before you move on, under my report, we have Hiv Annual Report, and we have Mr. Clifton Thompson here to present that. So can I have him jump in before you go?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Who's our speak tonight?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm filling in for Ms. Philmeyer, and so excuse me if I don't do as good a job as she does at this, but she's seasoned at the HIV school self-assessments presentation for the year, and she sent me quite a few emails to make sure I was up to speed, but we'll see what happens. So every year, the NJDOE school assessment for determining grades each school gets a grade based upon their self-assessment on HIV. All New Jersey schools are required to complete the annual assessment to determine compliance under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. And there are 8 core elements which are listed that they have suggestions on how you document whether you are actually meeting these goals. And so in the self-assessment form, they list what schools are looking for to evaluate themselves. And our schools did a good job of evaluating themselves because they don't give themselves the highest score on everything, as you'll see in slides coming up, and they're honest. But they're also doing a good job. And so there are 8 core elements. I'm not reading them out to you. And the scores are rated 0 for does not meet the requirements, 1, partially meets the requirements, 2, meets all requirements, and 3, exceeds the requirements. If you meet all the requirements, you can score a 52. And I want you to hold on to that number so when you see our schools, you can recognize how good we are doing. A 52 means you meet all the requirements in the 8 elements out of a total possible 78 points. And so if you move all the way to the far right, you'll notice that our lowest school scores are 70, which, we're educators and teachers, and so that's like an 89.78, which is a beg me A, right? So that means our schools are doing really good at HIB. They're meeting all the requirements. They're exceeding most of them, and they've done a really good job of evaluating themselves. So this will be posted on our website. After tonight, it has to be presented at a board meeting before it goes on the website. This will be posted. The scores are also posted, but these are our school scores. And there is approved board policy, 5512, the harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy that we do meet for our students. If someone is suspected of being bullied, whoever sees it can fill out this form on Hipster. And Hipster allows the reporters to easily fill it out. It allows people that are investigating to easily investigate and make sure that all the documentation is in one place and that it can be found and we can evaluate whether it was accurate or not. Every school, the district HIB coordinator is Melanie Philmeyer, and then every school has an HIB specialist. And they take their job seriously, as you will see. The specialists, they've had approximately 298 combined hours of HIV prevention and investigation training in the last 3 years. They have an anti-bullying specialist certification program, which is 15 hours, HIV law updates. They help to create a culture of empathy. They've gone through training with Eddie Fergus, suicide prevention, mental health first aid training, and nurtured heart training. And this is all so that we can create spaces that our kids can thrive in. We are a national district of character because of the work that goes on. And we have anti-bullying initiatives at LMS and LHS. And some of the things, think about what you're saying to each other. It affects people. And I think we're teaching that to our students. We probably all could use some of that sometimes. Think about what you're saying to each other that affects people. Some of the other anti-bullying initiatives, high school students' lessons, the power of words, the cardinal way. There's a person that works and he says, have a cardinal day, and I find that to be awesome because I will read this. Lawrence High School recognizes our responsibility to foster a culture of respect, empathy, compassion, and support among all individuals and groups with special sensitivity to those most likely to be subjected to disrespect, abuse, and misunderstanding. This can include, but is not limited to, age, disability, ethnicity, gender identity or expression, national origin, race, religion, and sexual orientation. Our goals are to create an unbiased environment where all individuals feel free to express themselves and are encouraged to pursue their work and study freely in a diverse community. I think that statement really is meaningful, especially when you think, have a cardinal day. If we're having a cardinal day, then we're doing those things for and with each other. There's a week of respect, and I think the picture is awesome, but week of respect. So we're going to stomp out bullying. We're going to be an upstander. We're going to respect the super, be a hero. Respect the community and the earth, be kind. Respect yourself, be you, create you. I thought that was all, the shirts are wonderful. Create you. And respect the school, be proud. If we do those things, if we model those things as adults and what we do daily, our kids will definitely follow because they'll know that's what we do in Lawrence. And we can keep going. So how Lawrence students show respect is by the work they do, by caring for each other, and by being the best they can be. Thank you.
That was the best presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Give that to John. I think he's up soon anyway.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Thompson. So now moving on to committee reports, starting with community relations and legislative affairs. Wait, I missed something, I'm sorry. President's report, that's me. I just want to thank the parents, the teachers, and the students for adjusting and working together this past week and a half. It doesn't go unnoticed how challenging it could be, but everyone really did a great job of coming together and getting our students in school and moving forward. I also wanted to mention that I have begun with the committee assignments. They've been scheduled. The chairs of the committees will be meeting in time for our next meeting, and we'll be able to report on the new assigned committees. So that work is in progress with the committees. And that's pretty much all I have. So now I can move to committee reports. And the first one is community relations and legislative affairs. Oh, but I think there's one committee that has a report, but none there. Negotiate, I'm just going to read through, and if someone has something, they could let me know.
I have a report when you get to a moment.
Right, okay, so negotiations would have equity. I don't believe there's anything. Guidance in mental health.
Nope.
New Jersey School Board Association.
And that would be me.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. As I stated the last time, Mercer County School Board's meeting is January 27th. It's coming up quickly, and the topic is so appropriate, inherent bias. And if you're interested, register on New Jersey School Board. I've noticed quite a few of you have already done so, so thank you. I attended an Equity Council WebEx meeting just at 4:30 tonight to 6, and the topic was on minority, majority, and I have bazillions of notes that I'm happy to share. We are doing such amazing work here in Lawrence. A lot of these topics we've already dealt with because we started this process so long ago. But some of the interesting points that came up from other board members throughout the state were things, if the parents are silent, if the students are silent, if board members are silent, are we really hearing what people feel, where they are, the respect going back and forth? The dialogue is important. And we came to the conclusion, because of COVID, we're not able to go out into the community like we've done before to really get into the nitty-gritty of hearing from people that don't just come to board meetings. They have children, they have whatever, they can't get here. So it was exciting to hear. We all feel the same way. We do want to hear. We do want to develop and refine our relationships with the community, because that's the only way we can function at the ultimate level. So that was one of the loud discussion matters at this meeting. But I'll be happy, as I said, to share, so I don't want to go in, but it was a timely meeting for sure. LTEF, I'll just go through them if you don't mind and get them done. LTEF did not meet, but you do know Handbag Bingo, February 25th. Direct Link did not meet yet. Project Graduation did meet on the 10th at 8 o'clock, and they need chairperson and a treasurer to fill the void. They are planning their March 12th, casino night at Rider University. So please look towards that. And there was one other thing, Delegates Assembly. This is something I'd like you all to think about, board members. I have been representing our school board for Delegates Assembly probably for 8 years now, and I'm happy to continue it, but if there's someone that's interested in serving in that capacity, let me know. What the position means is that you will attend 2 Saturday meetings per year from 9 to 12 about. You discuss policies and resolutions that the New Jersey school boards, I'm on the subcommittee, we kind of refine the resolutions and modify them. So at the resolutions, you get to vote on them, discuss them. And every district is represented. We and Lawrence are entitled to a voting member and a non-voting member. So if you're interested, hit me up or I'll be happy to do it again. And I think that's it. Thank you for the time.
Okay. Do we have anything from town council? I don't believe so. Growth and redevelopment, no. VOTEC, nothing at this moment. Special education, I don't believe we have anything. Is that right? Okay. Next, then we will move on to review of communications. Do we have anything there?
We do not.
Thank you. Okay, with that being said, we are now at the moment for our first public input. If you could come to the mic, state your name, your address, and keep the comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Luann Kilday. I live on Skillman Avenue, Lawrence, New Jersey. I used to come to meetings and try to say at least one positive comment, as I'm sure you're all tired of hearing the negative things at the meetings. So I want to give a shout out of praise to the guidance department at LHS. Given the fact that mental health issues are significantly on the rise, this department is currently the most important and overworked staff in Lawrence Township. To many of them, that I can't name now, they've all been extremely helpful and kind in helping myself as well as many other families during these difficult times. But I would like to give a specific shout out of recognition to Mr. Christian D'Angelo, one of the guidance counselors, and the Thrive social worker, Chelsea Davis. I'd also like to say that the Thrive program has been crucial during these changes in education for children who are really struggling with the remote learning and the lack of socialization that's causing a lot of anxiety, depression, and stress. So I want to thank Lawrence Township for having this program, and I think we need to consider possibly expanding it for a resource for those in the near future, as more and more students are probably going to need it and benefit from it. As many of you on the board know me personally, and the fact that I do not just come here to complain about things, a few times I have had to come with concerns, and because you know that our district can do better. Last week, myself and other parents were extremely disappointed by all who changed the full in-person learning to first a day off, then remote learning, and then half-day learning. Also a huge disappointment was the canceling of extracurricular activities such as the play and cheer. We're heading on year 3 of dealing with this virus. Depression and anxiety are plaguing our children, much more than COVID, and the effects of mental illness will be much more longer lasting. I have a statement here that was just released in January, which I will distribute to all of you to read. It was put out by the clinical leadership and the policy lab of CHOP, an extremely reputable hospital that specializes in children's physical as well as mental health. CHOP is an excellent resource to look to for guidance on how to keep our children safe physically as well as mentally. I'm not going to read the statement to you as it's 2 pages long. I'm just going to give you a copy. I do want to read for the record their opening paragraph, which reads, with evidence that COVID-19 is becoming a milder infection in most children, and at the time when all adults and youth K through 12 have been offered vaccination, CHOP and the policy lab at CHOP support in-person instruction, even in times of significant community transmission, and propose new guidance that reduces the burden to the school staff and families. They suggest basic cold practices that have been our district policy for years. If you don't feel well, you stay home. They also emphasized the need to modify quarantine time.
I'm sorry, you're out of time right now. Thank you so much for your comments. And we'll take the two sheets.
So what I will finish with is that at the April meeting, Dr. Kaysen, for the public record, has said that it is sad that the children cannot learn in the absence of a teacher. In other words, saying that children can learn without a teacher. So during these staff issue times, I'd like to see how you could make that happen. This board right now has the power to turn everything around, keeping our children in person full day now and in the future, as recommended by Chuck.
Thank you so much for your comments. Seeing no other comments, we'll move on now to board discussion and work session.
And tonight for our public discussion, or for our board discussion and work session, we have our attorney, John Comegno, here to talk a little bit about board ethics.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is a privilege to be here. It's always a privilege to be here. I have to say that what I have to say was already said by those elementary students. It was already said, and I was hoping that he wouldn't go before me, because you can't follow Clifton Thompson. And he stole my thunder too, in talking about the cardinal way. The students talked about supporting staff, and they acknowledged this board, mindful of what it's been like for you, not just this board, but across the country and across this state, what boards have experienced during this time. They acknowledged you for supporting staff and supporting teachers. We're going to talk tonight about the School Ethics Act. The Act expects you to do that. They thanked you for your selfless and thankless public service. The School Ethics Act expects you to do that too. To put the needs of the community, of the students, of the staff, administration, teachers, above personal or self-interest. And for you to advocate for all, not just for individual interest. From the mouths of babes. And I'm not talking about Thompson when I say that. You did not expect to see this on the screen. It's a classic. It's from 1962. And it has something to do with what I'm talking about tonight. And I bet of everyone here, as we've already seen tonight, because we have, amongst others, one of the most detail-driven and brilliant business administrators and board secretaries in the state. He probably knows this. Senator Byron M. Baer, and there he is. You likely have not heard his name before, but the Open Public Meetings Act is the Senator Byron M. Baer Open Public Meetings Act. Now, why, John, would we have a promotional, magnificent promotional poster from The Brain That Wouldn't Die? Perhaps much more to his credit, and there's a joke in here somewhere which I'm not going to make. Senator Byron M. Baer's greatest achievement is not the Open Public Meetings Act, which bears his name, but he was the special effects coordinator for The Brain That Wouldn't Die. Again, I'm going to leave it to you to make the joke. I want to congratulate each of you for your service. I want to acknowledge particularly our new member. I want to congratulate our new leadership. We're going to talk tonight about the role of the board, which is different than any other elected body in the state. You are elected officials, and you are elected into a position, but you are elected into a collective. You are elected into a collective with a very specific role, in a role at times that can feel nebulous, in a role at times that is unfair. Because you sit out here, you sit in your community, you watch, you listen, you run for the board with a thought, with an agenda. I don't say that pejoratively, with a vision, with ideas, with a voice. And then you hear school boards and the lawyer talk about what you can't do and what you can do. Being on a board of education is nuanced. Being on a board of education is a privilege, but it changes your voice, and it changes your role. The board is the governing body of the school district, the governing. It's not the managing. It is not, in many ways, the supervising. It's charged with high-level policy-making decisions, policy-making decisions. We can look at the fat content of our menus. We're not going to make choices of menus. We can look at whether or not and consider whether or not we're going to add a wing, or we're going to change in some way what the curriculum might be, but we're not going to pick the books. We're not going to pick the desks. Only the entity can enter into contracts or other binding agreements. Decision-making and authority is limited. And again, we're going to keep coming back to this. The role of the board is not to administer the schools. And there's a phrase that's often used, and I think it summarizes really perfectly the role of the board member. The role of the board member is not to run the schools. It is to see that they are well run. Not to administer the schools, but to see that they're well administered. In many circumstances, the board cannot act without recommendation of the superintendent. That's why you see in the agenda with a recommendation of either Ross or Tom. I want to ask you, and this is something for you to think about. We have reflective board members, and I enjoy being with you and hearing your conversations. Can you ever take your hat off? I often need to wear a hat. Can you ever take your board member hat off? I feel so strongly about this. I'm going to go online tonight, and I'm going to say that fill in the blank. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to lead into it by saying, I'm speaking as John Jones, citizen, not board member. And then I'm going to share my brilliant thoughts. And then I'm going to end by saying, again, John Jones, not John Jones, board member. But John Jones is a board member, isn't he? Well, he's not, but in my hypothetical, he is. Can you ever really take your hat off? And what is the perspective of the listener? What is the perspective of the reader? What is the perspective of the individual on the ball field or in the grocery store who is hearing what you have to say? Because as we're also going to discuss, the role of the board president, it's not just that she gets double salary of everybody else. For those at home, board members don't get any salary. She's the only one that can speak on behalf of the board. The only one. We're going to talk about that. And again, the board is governed by a code of ethics, which is different than other elected offices. The purpose of a school board meeting. What is? Please, give me thoughts. What's the purpose of a school board meeting?
Business.
Thank you. And of course you would have that answer. It is the taking of action in public. It is the business of the board. It is not to engage in a Q&A with the public. It is not actually to provide information to the public. There are times when, like tonight, we've had multiple presentations, and typically we would have committee presentations, and folks that come out and listen and see know that. A school board meeting, because of Senator Byron Baer, has to be in public, but it is not a meeting of or for the public. It is a meeting of the Board of Education in public, so that the public can see the action of the board. Not for individuals within the community to come out and ask questions. That's why it's public comment. And it's not public question and answer. And for members of the public, that can feel off-putting because it feels artificial and contrived. I've got a question, I'm going to come up and step at the mic, and you're 20 feet away, and I'm looking at you, and you're not answering my question. And that's because it's public comment. And that's why questions are directed to the superintendent. They're directed to the BA. They're directed to building level administrators. Because the purpose is not to answer questions. It's so that the community can see the action being taken, the business of the board. What's the role of a school board member? I'll throw that out there as well. What's the role of a school board member? I already gave you this one. It is to see that our district is well run. It is to engage in policy making. It is to take action in public that is informed. I'm going to step through each of the tenets of the School Ethics Act. There are a number of case citations because I wanted Kevin to be proud of me. I'm not going to read all of them. They will be for you. I'm sure that the materials will also be posted. I think of the several tenets of the School Ethics Act, and there are many. This is perhaps the most important and what can be trickiest. And I recognize, and I think the legislature even recognizes in the School Ethics Commission, which oversees and hears complaints, recognizes that it can be difficult to discern at times policy-making role from other individual action. Look at the language. I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together, the collective, right? Elected into, with my fellow board members to see that they are well run. There is a role of individuals, folks. There's a role of individuals to serve on committee, to talk, to have at it, to get into it, right? To have conversation publicly when agenda items are being voted on. To discern the interests of the community. But it is collective. It is together. And, as we heard again tonight, it is expected to be discharged within the cardinal way. A couple of cases. I'll point out the Pleasantville case, a little bit older, C-4010. Board member violated the code and was censured. And these are cases that arise from complaints that were filed against board members. Anyone can file a complaint with the School Ethics Commission. Board member violated the code, was censured by instructing the superintendent to allow a graduating senior to participate in graduation ceremonies when the superintendent had barred the student from participating in the ceremonies due to safety concerns. Individual action. Individual action based on individual interest. That's pretty glaring micromanagement. C-6406, case from Sussex County. Board member violated the code when he unilaterally visited the school and took pictures of open windows in the middle school and items in the board office bathroom, which he then spoke about to reporters. May you have concerns? Yes. May you hear concerns from constituents? Yes. Those concerns need to be shared with the administration so that investigation and administrative action can take place. And you can follow up, and you can ask questions. But you can't take action in individual unilateral action unless that administrative process fails. That's what these cases say time and again. 24.1C, limited to policymaking. I will confine my board action to policymaking, planning and appraisal. I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board board has consulted those who will be affected by them. Not to say this is a specific project we ought to do. Not to say that this is a company we ought to hire. Conceptually, this is an issue. This is a problem. This is something we need to consider. Board action, policy making. C-1614, Asbury Park case. Board members conducted a site visit to assess a candidate for assistant superintendent without board authority. You know, folks, when the train goes off the track, it goes off the track. And there are reasons. I often say we have process for difficult times. This situation here could have ruined someone's career beyond simply being an unethical act. But perhaps that assistant superintendent had not let her then employer know. There are reasons we have rules, right? A1015, this is an interesting case. This is one of ours. We requested an advisory opinion on this. And it has to do with this auditorium. Didn't happen here. But we had a teacher who, after many, many years, retired. He had served as the assistant director of the musical and the play. The director, his wife. He retires, runs for the board, gets elected, and now wants to continue volunteering in that capacity, right? I get that. It's hard to leave the theater. But now think about it, folks. He now is a member of the ultimate executive body which employs the superintendent, who eventually oversees, supervises the building principal, who supervises, oversees the teacher, who is then now overseeing the assistant director, who he's the, right? All falls apart, doesn't it? And this was in a line of cases where we talk about volunteering, and this is an example of, you can volunteer, but it has to be one-offs. You can take tickets. You can attend events. You can't regularly be certainly in a position where, like here, he then goes to the building principal and asks, hey, can we leave the auditorium open extra? Can we get extra time? Can we? What's the principal going to say? What information should a school board member access? This is an issue often in many districts. And the answer is here, folks. And I'll come back to Joanne's answer earlier, because it all follows. The role of the board members to take that action. The information that you need is the information that you need to take an informed action. That likely is not climbing into the weeds. That likely, and I know you get a lot of information, but it's the information that you need. And consider that when you're asking for information. Why do I need this information? Personnel committee. There are boundaries around a personnel committee in particular because you can only take action on personnel at the superintendent's recommendation. And that's because our superintendent has a special certification and license from the State Department of Education. And the process flows out here in HR, looking at various requirements for various roles. The point here with the advisory opinion is the role of the personnel committee is very limited and it's very narrow. It doesn't get into interviewing. It doesn't get into, in any way, actions below that of the superintendent. Let me ask you this. I don't think I have this in a big, beautiful slide. How many employees does this board have? Joanne can answer. How many employees does this board have?
Yeah, one. Superintendent.
Thank you. You have one, and only one. It's the most important thing you do, I think, and that is hiring a superintendent, supporting a superintendent, evaluating a superintendent. You got a great superintendent. It's the only employee that you have, because all other employees are subordinate to your superintendent. What's the difference of a board of a whole and a board by committee? And I would say one word: trust. Some boards operate by committee, like this board. You hear committee reports. Board members spend a lot of time at the committee level considering information, considering administrative recommendation, and they come with recommendations to you. You place your collective trust in them to make recommendations. Some boards can't do that. Some boards choose not to do that. Some boards operate as a board of the whole, and they have working sessions where they engage publicly with that committee level conversation. The public sees it. I think it's helpful to think about the role of the committee and the role of each of you, both on the committees that you serve on and what you're doing with the recommendations of committees that you're not. Are board members simply rubber stamping personnel and other recommendations? Put differently, may you say no? And the answer is yes. You may say no. But that no, particularly when it comes to a personnel item, has to be based on some bona fide, genuine, real concern and difference of opinion that that recommendation is wrong based on the facts. The Ethics Act specifically here at H, I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer. In a couple of cases. And these cases go back and forth. This, our students said so beautifully. They were so excited. I will support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties. Does that mean that when you disagree with a decision, you can't go on Facebook and light up that administrator? Frankly, yes, it does. Well, that's not fair, John. This is America. That should have been louder. I have First Amendment rights. Yes, you do. Yes, you do, but they are tempered, and I come back to what I said before. Can you ever take your hat off? I will support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties. The role of the board member when there's a concern about administrative action and performance is not to, frankly, folks, speak publicly. It's to address the concern of the board president and the superintendent and pursue administrative action. That's how a board may be heard. In a number of cases that talk about this. Look at this one. President of the board violated the code by posting the following comments on his Facebook page with a link to a picture of the superintendent. Now, if we could only do something about our local terrorists that destroy dreams and burn futures. Don't do that. A couple more cases again. You can read. Is the role of the board president different than other members? Yes, it is. We spoke of this. You can see right in the policy there are specific action items which are a privilege of the board president. Something to think about, particularly speaking. Robert's role. So we operate by order. We've got the Open Public Meetings Act, which gives us structure. Policy gives us structure. We default over to Robert's rules when the rest of the structure doesn't answer or dictate. What happens after a split vote? So we've got a tough item, and the board goes 5-4. Board goes 6-3. Board goes 8-1. Can that individual who dissented and voted no still be heard on that item? Still be heard on that issue? So we had a School Ethics Commission decision a couple of years ago. And look at the italicized language at the bottom. If a lone board member is unable to convince his or her fellow board members, and this is during the committee process, this is during debate, the board member's recourse is to address the issue in public or to vote against a resolution or action that he may disagree with. That's it. And once the collective has been heard, folks, the collective has been heard. It doesn't mean you have to vote unanimously all the time. But it means that when the board speaks, the board has spoken. So this is something that we have seen across our great state for the last 22 months. We've seen it about masks, we've seen it about vaccines, we've seen it about social distancing. We have seen more public health experts step up the mics than ever before. It is stunning. Our NJSA and NJAC, statute and regulation, executive orders like 281, and or other guidance binding on school boards, or may the board exercise discretion. You may remember when you swore your oath to uphold the law. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with it, but it means you got to follow it. The answer here is yes, that they're binding. And you may hear from administrators' recommendations, and there may be some play. 6 feet, 3 feet, 10 days, 5 days, 6 days, right? It's all wonderful stuff. Stuff that's keeping Ross and Tom and others up at night. Like, legit. And decisions to close are not made lightly. But authority has to be followed, folks. That's the point. There it is. I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations. Desired change shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures, which, if you've been watching, you've heard. Go to the legislature. It's right down the road. It's not here. No personal promise or private action. You get that. You're speaking as the collective. You're discerning the wish of the community. A lot of cases on this issue. No personal gain, special interest, or partisan political groups. There's a reason that your office is a nonpartisan office. And that is because you're not here legislating with a policy agenda, lowercase a. You're here to make sure that our system of public education is well administered. Virtually all board information is confidential unless it's talked about here, particularly executive session. And that means confidential to you, not confidential to your family, not confidential to your friends. And I don't say that sharply, because it's natural for human beings to share information. Particularly in a virtual era, we've got to keep information confidential because the consequences can be individual liability as well as collective liability. And if there's a question about is this confidential or not, direct it to your board president, direct it to the superintendent. We talked about investigating and what that investigation looks like, and it is to proceed through administrative channels. And again, volunteering is limited. Volunteering goes to any action that you take as a volunteer has to be consistent with the actions that you take as a board member. And you got to keep that in mind. I thank you for your time. I thank you for the privilege of sitting at that table and providing counsel. I congratulate all of you, and I will conclude by saying what I have said throughout this time to our many, many districts. There's a reason. Do you know where we are ranked nationally in public education? Do you know where New Jersey's ranked?
Yes.
There's a reason for that, folks. Many, many places in the country, COVID came and students were without months. Here, we turned a page, literally within hours. You play a crucial role in that. Congratulations on your great work.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. With that, now we are at our second opportunity for public input. If there's anyone in the public that
My name's Jim Cleek, 70 Starr Lane. As some of you may remember, I used to be kind of a school board junkie until the last couple of years. I was here all the time. That last presentation, I never heard anything like that. It sounds like things have changed dramatically. One thing is the 3 minutes, so I got to talk really fast because I know, and I kind of applaud the idea of having some control. I think 3 minutes is a little tough, but I used to see here and have people up here and harangue you for 20 minutes and nobody'd ever gavel them down. But the things that are different, frankly, that presentation made me feel as though the public is not too welcome. We're not supposed to ask any questions. We used to ask questions. I used to ask questions. I saw other people ask questions, and the superintendent or Tom would answer, but also this board president lots of times. I'm just asking how much has that changed? I don't know whether this is part of this is because I see on television, where boards are harangued by people, attacking them personally and all that stuff. And so I can see, there's a need. That hasn't happened. Well, maybe it has. I think it probably did happen around here a couple of years ago. But I see the need for, but anyway, I'm probably got 30 seconds left. The only other thing I thought of following up on the lady who spoke before, I'm sure everybody agrees on the need to get to in-person learning ASAP and to give people as much warning as possible because of the people who are, both parents work, and besides the fact that the damage to the children in lower elementary schools, which is well-founded, like she said from CHOP and a lot of sources, but also if you're supposed to get to work and you don't find out until Sunday night, you got to. So I'm sure that you're doing your darndest. I was just wondering, if there's anything like, I thought the governor said approved hiring retired teachers, if I believe. I wondered if you had what feelings you had, because I know staffing was the problem for closing up last week, and do you feel, I don't know, I'm hoping that you feel like that's a little bit under control, but I'm sure it's going to continue probably. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your comments. I think everything is a balance, and I do want the public to know we do like to hear from them. We do value their questions and their input. I will answer any phone call I get, any emails I get. If I don't know the answer, I direct them directly to the building principals. And really, that's the best way to get information, is really talking to the people that are in charge of your children and know your schedule. But again, if you have any questions at all, please reach out. Follow the chain of command. Start with your teacher, then move to the building administration, and then certainly, if you're not getting the answers you want or you need something else, please call Tom or myself. We always want to answer that. We are trying our best to staff our schools. We are, getting substitutes as much as we can. Many people are afraid to work right now with the new variant, so getting and filling them is a challenge. We will take retired teachers. We will take people in college. We will take really anybody that would be good in front of kids. We would be more than happy to add to our list right now. No, I didn't take it that way. I didn't take it that way at all. No.
No, but we are listening when you come to the podium. We are hearing you, and that's important.
You're always welcome, Mr. Cooper.
And if I can we had set this presentation up last month, and because part of the presentation, this was not a new rule, not new policy. This is all well-established case law. It's well-established opinions. It was just really, there was twofold reasons. One is to help educate the public on our roles, because there is a lot of misunderstanding about what we do. We routinely do get requests like, well, you need to tell Ross that he needs to keep the schools open, and that's not our role. And so we wanted to make this presentation to kind of help educate the public, and also as part of our responsibility as board members, we all try to take part in educating ourselves, our own professional development, and with the COVID protocols and the shutdowns of the school board conventions and having to do that remote, we wanted to provide this as kind of a great reminder for those of us that have been on the board for a while, and especially with our new board members, to kind of tee this up. So yeah, this is not a new rule. Frankly, as you've heard from there, this is not an efficient forum to have back and forth, and it frustrates us that members of the public often leave here frustrated, but it's a function of the way that the meeting is set up and the limitations that we have. We are still open to comment, as everybody said. We want them, we invite them. A lot of times we will direct then people to say, okay, this would be a great thing to follow up either with the building principal tomorrow or follow up with Ross's office or Tom's office. So yeah, this was not something new, or it was not prompted by anything in particular. It was just as we were kind of finishing out last year's kind of what we wanted to do on the horizon, we thought that this would be a great opportunity to just take and remind the public and frankly remind ourselves of the process, the procedures, and what our responsibilities are.
Thank you, Mr. Van Heist. Next on the agenda is board discussion and action items. I don't believe there's anything.
Well, the action items are the various sections.
We have
Madam
to vote.
President, may I
Yeah.
comment on one thing?
Absolutely, sure.
So just, and to echo some of the words that Mr. Van Heist said, and some other things that have come to light that I've come to understand. I've come to understand that people are not aware of the decision, and I've heard it said again and again that it was last minute. The last minute decision, I was advising Ross on a routine basis, and so were the principals. And we were calling our contacts, whether it's supervisors who report to us, to check on school bus companies to say, how many drivers do you have out now? How many drivers do you have out now? Can you staff the kitchens? How about now? And it would change by the hour. And one of the things that, I'll say it my way, because some people, for whatever reason, don't want to believe this. If there was a call at the last minute, as people feel, it was in favor of staying open. It was everything we could do to stay open and in person. And so we didn't get information from many of the people who would supervise our schools, supervise our kids, transport our children, and feed them until the very last minute, as they were reporting in to perhaps their employers. So if it was a bus company, we didn't know which drivers would be out. We had the bus company, and even our bus companies were down. Their offices were closed with COVID. And so when the drivers were calling in to their office, the people in the office were affected too. And so we went from 6 drivers out to 7 drivers out to 11 drivers out at the last minute. And we all want to do a good job. No one here, not the administrators, not the board members, not the principals in the audience, or absolutely not the teachers at home, want to be remote. And we all want to do a great job. And we all want all of our constituents to be pleased all the time. As I recently wrote in an email to someone, we are all in all the time, around the clock. And I can tell you that Ross makes sure that he's informed. And one of the things that I want as a takeaway from this, just to wrap it up, is this, that when the decisions were being made, it was always in favor of staying open. Notice that indeed we closed closer to, or went remote, closer to time when we had to come back. It was because we were desperately holding on to being in person. And we were hoping that a critical mass of support people and people in direct instruction would be available, but they were not. And so one of the things that the decisions that were considered was, well, what happens when we have too few staff and many, many children? Well, when that happens, we have to put the many, many children in one big place so that we can keep supervision at acceptable levels. Because when you have only a few staff, or far fewer staff, that is, with the same number of children, how do you supervise them? You have to bring them into one place and keep them all together. We certainly didn't want to do that with the concerns we had with Omicron and social distancing. So having fielded many, many calls and many emails, I thought that might be something that the public would be interested in and that you would be interested in. And because my boss was blowing up my phone every other second with emails getting statuses of staffing. And so was Dr. Zuckerman, so was Sean Fry. Our principals were feeding us information. And so that's kind of what it was happening. All the while, had our own families who were also impacted, as your families were. And then we also had one of our staff members who passed. And so we were all working through this at one time. Thank you for allowing me the time.
Thank you. Now, moving on to Personnel Committee report and personnel action items.
I can review that if you wish. Okay, on tonight's agenda, you'll find a resignation, one retirement, Susan Gould, just shy of 20 years, fourth grade teacher at LIS. We thank her for her dedication and years of service to our district. We do wish her a happy retirement filled with good health. You'll also see extension and amendment for leave replacement, appointments for destination teachers and substitutes for the school year, appointments for G&T scorers, salary adjustments due to credits earned, confirmation appointments of staff members due fingerprint clearance, and appointment for a substitute nurse. And with that, I'd like to move P1 through P13. Second.
With a motion and a second, if we could have a roll call, please.
Ms. Bose?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Grover?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Pluto?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hise?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. And next on the agenda is CIAPD report and instructional student service action items. Reviewing with that.
CIAPD has not met yet, but on the agenda we have 4 items. I'd like to make a motion to move IS1 through IS4.
Second.
With a motion and a second, if we could have a roll call, please.
Ms. Bose?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Grover?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Pluto?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hise?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes. And next, we will have the Finance Committee and School Business Management action items. Ms. Evans?
Thank you. Finance did not meet. Tom condensed what you see on the agenda, and I would like to move SPM 1 through 11.
Second.
With a motion and a second, if we could have a roll call, please.
Ms. Bose?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Grover?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Pluto?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hise?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Motion carried.
With that, we have our third and last opportunity for public input. If there are any members of the public that would like to speak at this time, please state your name, your address, and keep it to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Krista Garvon at 80 Stoniker Drive. I wasn't planning on doing a public comment today, so that's why I'm waiting till the end. But I feel like all of you spend a lot of time defending yourselves and explaining yourselves and your decisions. And I just want to say that my family, like many families in Lawrenceville, were exposed over the holiday break. And it was on Sunday. And I contacted the 3 different schools that my children attend and was contacted back almost immediately by either a principal or their teacher or the nurse. They let me know what was going to be happening. This was before they had called that school would be remote. And the just quick action and support that they all provided us was nothing short of amazing. And then afterwards, when they provided my children with all of the supplies that they needed, their kindergarten and pre-K, so it was just, it was a little bit of a struggle, and we were quarantining, so we couldn't even really get our stuff. So I just want to thank all of you and all the action from the teachers in our district for how well everyone came together to help and support the families during this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments.
It's so nice to hear the support for the teachers, because boy, they are really working hard.
Next, we have new business.
I can review part of that, but I'll need Tom to do the last one. You'll see amending start time, appointment for substitutes and leave replacements, approving travel log, and also EDPs, one resignation, confirming an appointment, and approving a joint transportation agreement. And Mr. Eldridge, if you would add our 15th one?
Sure, the 15th action item is the motion to approve the recommendation of the Administrative Hearing Committee regarding the incident involving local ID 3002108.
And with that, I'd like to move NB1 through NB15, please.
Second.
With a motion and a second, if we could please call the roll.
Ms. Bowes,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mrs. Grover,
Yes.
Dr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Pluta,
Yes.
Ms. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Van Hise,
Yes.
Ms. Farmer.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Okay, with that, I think we are at the end of our meeting, and we'd like to call for an adjournment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. With a motion and a second, if we could please call the roll.
Ms. Bowes,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Grover,
Yes.
Dr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Pluta,
Yes.
Ms. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Van Hise,
Yes.
Ms. Farmer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Stay healthy,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.